17, 16, 15, 3, 2, 1. We're live. This is Suck It Up with three people here, three human beings.
That's Uncle Bugatti, Tactibeard, and MPK.
Nice to meet you guys. Today's topic is a very fond topic of mine. Fondue parties. No, I'm kidding. It's guns. We didn't really have... This is more of a free form on guns, so I just wanted to open the floor. What do you like about guns? Everyone go around and say your favorite, just one of the best things that you think that guns bring to the standard user of firearms.
They make my dick hard.
Besides the homoeroticism.
Oh, no, that's full heteroeroticism, and you know it.
I'm sorry. I wanted to use the word eroticism, and the only way... the only modifier on that word I can think of right now is homo, so...
I think that speaks volumes around you.
I've got nothing for it. I'm sorry.
Speaks volumes about you and not about us.
Give me a gun I can cock so we can get this gay out of the air.
Yeah, I bet you're going to cock it, you fag. Grab an Enfield.
Huh? No, the one against the wall. That one's going to fall out of there if you're not careful. There you go. Grab that one. Yeah, Lee Enfield. Number 1 Mark III.
Was that number 1 Mark III? That is Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth herself.
Skank. It's very anticlimactic on camera, fucking microphones. All right, MPK, you go ahead and start. What's something that you thoroughly enjoy about firearms in less than 2 minutes?
Well, our country was literally founded on them because we wouldn't exist without firearms. I was just talking to Uncle Bugatti off microphone earlier, talking about how the old prone position was literally a reclined position shooting off of your boot because we didn't have tripods and all that fancy stuff in 1776. So the most stable way to shoot was off of your boot, which sounds just completely American because all you want to do when you're shooting redcoats is literally relax, drink a cup of coffee after you threw the tea in the harbor and, shoot at a bunch of Tories. So I like freedom.
Very nice. Bob.
What do I like about guns?
Beard, tell us.
So many things. There's nothing better than shooting a Magnum cartridge offhand and just nailing the target and hearing how steel on steel sounds. Or I should say bimetal jacketed lead projectile on steel sounds. Ugh. It's so good. The other thing, it's... A lot of what we do as well is collecting older guns, so we can hold pieces of history in our hands, because what is history? History is war. Someone killed someone else, and someone took over someone else, and someone occupied someone else, colonized someone else. You know how they did that? Weapons. You know what the apex weapon has been? Projectiles. Projectiles used in wars. There's something more profound there that just left my mind, so I'll leave it to Uncle Bugatti to finish us off. I think I can pick up
on that. Throughout the evolution of the human species, I think that the hand-eye coordination of using projectiles as weapons has definitely not prolonged, but have pushed our civilization forward.
Made us the apex predator.
Absolutely. And I think that, even biblically or ancient, throwing stones out of slings and which progressed to arrows, which progressed to various forms of crude firearms. And that, like Beard said, and I'm not putting this very eloquently right now, but this is the defining, war is the furthest extent of politics. And what has shaped the world more than war, and what has shaped war more than firearms? I can't name anything. Not to mention that they go bang and they make my dick hard.
There it is.
Choo choo. Yep. So, I don't know if we wanted to get into politics. I don't know if we wanted to get into anything specifically. Oh, someone's walking in. Walking in on a taping.
I just want to have a fun podcast where we talked about, guns and stuff. We don't have to get political. We don't have to make this be all negative Nancy right now. We talk about different types of firearms, philosophies behind different types of firearms.
Okay, yeah. No, absolutely. That sounds. I like that idea. So I'm holding a Lee Enfield right now, and can you guys want to tell me a little bit about this specifically? And
Well, the whole Lee series of rifles, anything that the British do, you can bet your sweet testicles that they're going to iterate it about 95 times, and it's going to get marginally better until it gets completely phased out by something else, which honestly, that says a lot about government and how bureaucracy works. But the Lee Metford was all right. There's a Lee that the United States used for a little bit that was a utter catastrophe. But the SMLE, short magazine Lee Enfield, started in like the 1880s, 1890s. And the one you're holding now was developed by the start of the First World War. Yeah, that one was specifically made in 1913. But the .303 caliber cartridge has come a long way, just like any other cartridge that was developed in the 1880s. It started life very strange. It's still a rimmed cartridge that was used through the Second World War, which is kind of unheard of considering the only other cartridge was the 7.62 Russian that was rimmed. The rest of them became less rimmed because reliability is a good thing. But basically, long story short, it's always been a bolt action 60-degree throw. It's always been a 10-round detachable box magazine. For the Lee Enfield, Lee Metford was its own nightmare. Double stage trigger, almost match grade after the years of use, and they stretched the use of those things out from the turn of the 20th century through they lasted through the 1980s as a sniper system. It's an insane life that gun has been through. And when it was a sniper system in the 80s, it was 50 years out of date. Like, the Germans were so far ahead. And I mean, the United States has always been renowned for building marksmen in the homestead because, guns and stuff. And that's part of our wonderful, rich history is guns and stuff. But yeah, the Lee Enfield, God, the thing has been ridden hard and put away wet several times in history.
the 303 cartridge was also used in the Hotchkiss and the Vickers, right?
Mm-hmm. That was World War One, and even into World War II, those saw service. And the MG08 that the Germans developed was basically a Vickers, and those guns saw several different calibers.
Yeah. No, and this, but the bolt. This is a Mauser bolt, though, right? I mean, no. You want to explain maybe that?
That is 100% British design. That is a two-piece striker, solid bolt head, really crappy extractor. It's a single-piece extractor.
Everything on the Enfield is British made, British designed, British manufactured.
Or Australian manufactured, depending on where it was made. But
for the Queen.
Yeah, I think it was rebarreled, and those guns got rebarreled so many times. But basically, it's a cock-on closing, which is kind of unheard of because most guns in World War I were cock-on opening because cock-on closing, there's so many different things you could talk about, pros and cons versus cock-on opening versus cock-on closing. It's easier to cock-on open because you're doing that translation motion and there's more power in rotational inertia than there is in linear inertia, especially on that short of throw. But that gun has always been cock-on closing. It has always been a variation of the 303 cartridge, and it has always been a very British gun because the posh British were not about to buy a Mauser and field it because they hated Germany for many reasons throughout the years.
But it looks like the locking lugs are actually. This is where it locks
Rear,
back
yes,
here,
rear
like
locking.
like a black powder almost.
Yep,
design.
they kept the old 303 black powder design, which again, forward locking lugs with black powder doesn't make sense because of fouling. And it started out as a black powder cartridge, but they never changed it to forward locking lugs because Britain.
For the king.
So then I have a question to propose for all three of us. Favorite Milsurp pistol? Favorite Milsurp rifle? Favorite modern pistol? And favorite modern rifle?
Okay, so we're going to do each one of those individually in a row because I want to see how they compare up against each other.
I will go last on all of them.
Okay, because he wants to say the correct answer. I just want to throw that out there. MPK is not exactly the most unopinionated man, but neither am I. So
He knows a lot more about guns than
Absolutely.
Uncle Bugatti and I combined.
absolutely, he is a gun hipster through and through, and I usually end up contacting him when I have any questions about it. So I let him do the research, and I benefit from it. So.
Like a good American.
Like a good American, you got to build off of each other, standing on the shoulders of almost literal giants.
He's only 6'4", no big deal.
Yeah, but I'm also really buff since you can't see me.
That needs to be a thing in every episode.
All right, we're going to go ahead. It already is.
You are correct.
So we're going to go ahead and let's start with military pistol, military surplus pistol. Is this any time frame? Or are we talking like kind of the Great Wars era, or just whatever?
I mean, if you like flintlock pistols, go for it.
Yeah.
So the flintlock pistol is my favorite. No, that's tough for me. I don't own too many mil-cert pistols. Honestly, I like the look of the 1911. 2 World Wars.
It's fair if you just want to base it off of video game lore, because honestly, that's how I started my gun love.
I never played any video games very much. I mean, I've gone over to people. I've played the games, but like a couple minutes. So it's not exact. What I see is either movies or documentaries. I also went to the in Kansas City which is a long drive from Idaho. It's the Kansas City World War I Museum is there. That was actually pretty interesting. But
Actually, small caveat, was a favorite Milsurp revolver and semi-automatic pistol.
Oh, you're digging too
you
deep
are
there,
digging too much.
Am I? Okay.
That's too much.
You're pandering to somebody out there who's jerking it to, oh, what about the revolvers? They count as pistols to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw out the 1911. I think cool-looking gun, lasted in service through 2 World Wars, You're welcome, Fuds.
No big deal.
No big deal. And I know that I don't know this from personal experience, but I know that a lot of people report them prone to jamming. 7+1, 45 ACP. It's a nice, decent gun. That's all I'm going to say about that, because the pistols are not an area that I'm super familiar with.
So that's a tough one, because I'm much more familiar with Milsurp rifles than I am pistols. We've shot a handful on the channel. 1911s obviously is a Milsurp.
MPK 1414 channel, shameless plug.
Very, very shameless. Enfield revolvers, Deutsche Werke, Polish Radoms.
The Savage 1903 semi-auto pistol is pretty neat.
It's very nice. My favorite that I have shot so far, and this is just because I apparently have an affinity for British guns, but the Enfield Revolver number 2 Mark 1. I would like a number 2 Mark 2 because a spurred hammer would be much better.
Is that a break barrel revolver?
It is a J-frame.
Ooh.
It's not break top like a Schofield.
Okay, I don't know the correct terminology, but it'd be a break top.
Yep.
Okay.
Or top break.
Top break.
Top break, break top.
Semantics.
It's like it's like an 1889 Smith & Wesson top break, or like a Schofield. Most people know what a Schofield is.
I actually don't. I'm gonna look it up right now.
You have no idea what the Schofield revolver is?
If I see it, I'll know it.
It went up against the Colt Peacemaker as the standard issue for the United States military cavalry. It's top break versus this basic gate loading 45 long Colt that the United States used in the frontier. But military surplus for me usually goes back to like 1860 when semi-autos / lever guns were first being developed. The semi-autos of that time were obviously dog shit, and they did not make any leeway until 1900.
Thanks, smokeless powder.
Exactly, and that's what it was when the 1886 LaBelle kicked off. There was just an insane arms race. But as far as pistols go, I've never been a fan of revolvers. I think they've been outdated since the 1911 was released, honestly. And even when the 1900 pocket pistol that FN released, the 32 automatic that the Europeans just loved, the United States was like, no, I want my 230 grains moving at less than 1,000 feet per second because more power, more gooder. whereas the 32 auto is less capacity for energy than a 380 ACP, which I would never consider carrying. So the 32 auto was literally a pocket pew pew and runaway gun. It was nothing special, but I really like the 32 autos of the turn of the century. I think it's an awesome time of history to study. I've never shot an FN 1900 or the Browning 1900. I would love to have one, but they are $1,300 at the cheapest. You guys know, if you've watched our YouTube channel, I don't buy expensive guns, but for the one I own, I would say my favorite would be like the Walther Model 4 or like the Savage 1903, because those 32 autos are just fun. Out of the lore, dude, the Luger. The Luger is...
That was my second choice.
The Luger is the epitome of cool milsurp.
Like, complicated and, you know, just complete German engineering. Like, the cocking on it was just incredible.
2 words. Toggle lock.
Toggle lock. Even sounds German. Okay. Are we back in? Okay, we're back in. It'll correct itself. Probably not, but okay.
You'll unfuck it eventually.
All right. Unfuck it. Unfuck it. So,
Unfuck it.
quickly unfuck it, sir. All right. So, we went through pistols, Milsurf pistols. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with Milsurf rifles, and Mosin Nagant 9130, really mass-produced rifle. I fucking love them.
You know what mine is.
Oh, but why? There's something about Comblock rifles.
Comblock?
Comblock, thank you. It's
It's actually Comblock.
454 Comblock.
Car reference.
Yeah, that's a big block. Big block of cum. Anywho, I'm gonna edit that in so I sound buffer. All right, so there's something about Comblock rifles, especially the Red Revolution 1918, and even how they stayed in the war after claiming power from the Tsars and continued to make these rifles. These were very mass-produced. They used to be super cheap, which I miss. That's probably what got me into it, is the fact that you could, at one point, you could walk in and get one for like $80. You go to the right person, $80 rifle, shoots 7.62 by 54 rimmed, 1891 design. You know, right around that time that smokeless powder was coming about. And were some of the original ones black powder? MPK?
Yes. every caliber that was developed around 1890 was usually already black powder because there was already so much available.
Yeah.
So yes.
But you know, so that's what got me into it, was picking up a gun for $80. It was made in 1943, and it's not Tula. What's the other big? Ishvesk. It was made during 1943, wartime made, crazy amounts of machine tool marks on it. It was rushed through that factory. It probably saw use. I mean, you clean those things when you get them. You take all the cosmoline, beautiful, delicious cosmoline off of them, and then and then you clean out the barrels. You know, you can run a couple hundred swabs through there and still be taking stuff out. That's probably corrosive primers and steel cases, depending on what was used, or steel ammunition. But I'm not in any way supportive of the communist ideals, but I think that there's something just incredibly crazy and awesome about the history behind a Soviet-made rifle.
You know what my favorite thing about the Moist Nugget is?
Comes with a bayonet that's super long.
Literally everything about that gun was a stolen idea, because communists can't come up with great ideas because they have no reason to. The only cool thing that was ever invented by the communists was Kalashnikov. That was a semi-original idea because no one had used a piston that looked like an automotive piston to build a gun yet.
Didn't they kind of steal that from the MG44? Or the...
Technically, yes.
There's a shape thing, but I don't think that was necessary. There's a lot of differences, though.
They basically took that premise with the Sturmgewehr and made their own intermediate cartridge, and a lot of different of their own ideas. I mean, the stamping idea was already there, but it was mostly an original idea when it first came together, and then they started stealing ideas once the government got their hands on it. Because the original AK-47 looks nothing like what we see today.
Oh, absolutely. And then I'd like to throw one more thing. Enemy at the Gates definitely helped me into the Mosin Nagant 9130. I just need a PU replica scope to put on there, and Vasily Zaitsev will live within me.
Vasily!
Go ahead, Beard.
MPK knows what I'm going to say already.
The Kravacek?
Crag Jorgensen. 30-40 Crag, baby.
So my favorite Milsurp rifle that I own personally, or that I've shot, is the K31, the Carabiner 31. It's from Switzerland. Straight pull.
Yeah, first successful straight pull, if I believe so, in major
Nope.
production. Really?
Rifle length was the first successful one. That was the...
Schmidt-Rubin model of 1889.
There you go, folks.
Thank you, Knowledge Base.
This is why
That's what your name needs to be now, Knowledge Base.
This is how the internet works. All you got to do is say you know something that you like. You factually know. You factually know that it's wrong, and you say it like it's truth, and 40 people will tell you how wrong you are. That's how you find
You're so
information
dumb.
nowadays.
I can't even tell you how dumb you are.
Yeah, I mean you get called a faggot, but that's every day.
All right, Beard, why?
Why? So many reasons why. One, it holds the current longest shot taken on iron sights. Buffalo size target at just over 2 kilometers.
Yeah, over 2,000 meters.
Yeah, it's actually quite impressive. Look that up sometime if you got the chance. There's a whole spiel about it. It's actually pretty neat. Straight pull is just... I never, ever, ever thought I would see a straight pull actuation until the Schmidt-Rubin. Sorry about that. Got a little phlegm. I never thought I'd see a straight pull action until the Schmidt-Rubin. And Schmidt-Rubin, for those of you who haven't watched the YouTube channel, I'm all of 5'5". Schmidt-Rubin is basically as tall as I am. So I was like, man, I would really, really love if there was something that was carbine length. And my prayers were answered about 70 years beforehand. And they made one. And it's glorious and golden. And it's not too heavy. It's weighted just perfectly for me. Hand placements are great. The wood is beautiful. The safety is simple. The design is relatively simple. The bolt's a little bit funky, but you'll have that. And it's so easy to actuate. So easy to use. 2-stage trigger that is just beautiful and crisp. Same with the Schmidt-Rubin straight pull. And it doesn't suck like our favorite.
Which one is that? Oh yeah, the Monlaka, the Ruckshook. That straight pull. Great idea, but once Armor started touching him and didn't realize that the teeth were matched to each other in each build because they had to be custom ground because they didn't understand that tolerances are really hard to hold. So then they started matching bolts with sleeves that were not originally ground together, and they were sticky.
That's what I've heard about wartime K98s from after the Nazi regime fell, is that they took all the bolts out and threw them in one pile and took all the rifles and tossed them in another. So, and they were actually, some of them were actually head spaced. That's a German thing to
Headspace, how does it work?
Yeah, exactly. So finding a wartime Mauser that was captured by the American, or the Russians for that matter, with matching serial numbers and receiver and bolt is actually a pretty difficult find.
And you see all those old pictures of the hundreds of thousands of K98s that were just stacked into piles.
Why?
It's just like, why can't I have those, and why are they $1,300 now? It's crazy.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, and speaking of history, that's another cool thing. Obviously, a controversial time in history, but a lot of those Mausers were actually made by slave labor.
Yep.
And just to destroy it in the name of saving someone's feelings, I don't think so. That's like tearing down statues. It's like, why?
That is a conversation I could have all day long, and this is one we've had on the channel many times. I understand why they were destroyed, but I also look at it as a piece of history. You have Arasakas with destroyed chrysanthemums and Royal Crest. You have K98s that have destroyed swastikas. You have just many, many, many that are destroyed. And it breaks my heart to see it, honestly.
I actually did some reading. One of our commenters on the YouTube channel was telling us that the chrysanthemums were actually destroyed by the Japanese a lot of the time. And that was just to conserve the emperor's name, even though, you know, he lost. But that was one thing that a lot of them were destroyed, and some of them were destroyed by the United States just because they're like, screw you, I'd rather have an American flag on this gun. But on to my favorite firearm, the Swish straight pulls are the bomb.com. The fact that I can reload them with 308 projectiles makes it even better. But within reason...
They're not 312s?
No, they're 306. They're 7.5 Swiss. So you can shove a 308 down the throat and it's fine. I've done a lot. Yeah. 2,000
cool.
not bad. 4,000 where you should start not doing that. But I love the obscure Mannlichers. I love my Dutch carbine. I love my Dutch Gewehr. Just within reason, if I had the just the unlimited capacity to spend money, I would buy a Sturmgewehr. But just as like service rifles, if we stayed on service rifles, God, there's something about the Mauser brothers and just learning about them. Can you imagine if your parents had 8 kids and you didn't have a TV, but you had a lathe in your living room? Can you imagine how awesome your life would have been if your dad taught you how to use a lathe as a child instead of how to use the television?
See, that's what I hope for. With my children in the future, they're going to be just incredibly well versed in all things military. Even though I was never in the military, it's just
Right.
like not necessarily military, but guns, manufacturing, machine work. I want them to have a very good hands-on.
Well, just being able to step back, and we're 3 civilians talking about firearms. How many people on the planet can do that?
You know, that's why I love America. A bald eagle just cried and flew overhead.
Are you sure that wasn't Are you sure that wasn't a C-130J like when I set my Air-15 on fire?
Well, we can't all have perfect timing.
But if I had to pick one rifle out of World War I, World War II, military surplus, God, it would be very difficult. I've said it before, if you were going to buy one, you need to buy an M9130 just because the ammo's really easy to get. They are just rock-solid guns. The bolt sucks because it was a stolen design that they mashed 2 designs together and they were never meant to work together. But I would definitely choose a Mauser variant in 7mm just because it's kind of obscure. It shows how much of a hipster I am when it comes to these guns. I love the 7mm FN guns or any of them that were sent to South America. I love those guns.
Just know, if you buy a Mosin, you have to slap that bolt like a Russian mail-order bride. Can you confirm?
I can confirm. I just bought some surplus ammo from, man, I want to say it was the late 70s. From the look of it, I can't confirm that, but I measured 50.3 grains of extruded powder out of there, and I mean, I need to carry a rubber mallet with me to get those fucking things open. Seriously,
That's a lot of powder.
that's called fire forming, kids.
That's just like the Turkish 8mm surplus. It's a 150 grain projectile going 3,000 feet per second out of a 29-inch barrel. That is toasty.
That is sexy. That's what that is.
That is very toasty. But yeah, it's
Wow.
The Mauser variants were very vast, and the amount of calibers that they were chambered in was just crazy.
So,
Modern pistol.
modern pistol doesn't have to be in surplus, or it doesn't have to be in military use.
Nope, any.
Okay. Now, this is just from personal experience. I've shot a lot of pistols, and I know what you guys, I know you guys know what I'm going to say already. I have a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. It's a 4 1/4 inch barrel. It's basically a service pistol, honestly. And I've got upwards of 6,000 rounds through it. And the only time it's failed is because of the ammunition I bought. It'll cycle anything. Now, I know MPK will argue with me. I actually like the stock trigger to an extent, but I also learned on it. I walked into a gun shop and I said, look, everyone loves Glocks. Sell me out of a Glock. And, I shot that a few times. Didn't really know what I was buying when I bought it, paid for it. And I'm at the point now where I am attempting to start to compete with it. I love that pistol. It's a 9mm. I did put a new trigger in it, which made it just delicious. Shout out to Apex. You make good products.
Sponsor us, please.
Yes, sponsor us, please. I will make sure everyone knows about I'm a pilgrim in an unholy land of triggers. I will make sure that the world knows of Apex triggers.
I honestly miss the innocence of going into a gun store and going, I don't know a goddamn thing about guns. Sell me something, because that's a magical time. That hasn't happened to me since the first gun I bought, which was the Howa 1500 Game King, which is mucho bueno. That's an awesome gun.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Like, that just comes from ignorance. I got to go into a store. I got to actually,
the bliss was so good.
It is, and it's nice. It's like when someone tells you the ending to a movie. You're like, fuck you.
Yeah,
right? You already have expectations and stuff. I knew enough that everyone loved Glocks, and I knew that, look, they're nice. There's got to be something else. I got to say, I haven't really shot too much of the first gen of the M&P series. I know they've made some competition versions. I know that there's a lot of cops that have them and stuff. The second gen is pretty new. I don't know how new. I couldn't tell you that exactly. Out the door is probably $630 just for the gun. But I gotta say, everything I've shot through it, I'm impressed. I haven't seen it go through the gauntlet, so to say. I don't want to clean it after that, so because it works just fine as it is. But I am thoroughly impressed with how it's performed so far. So that's what I'm gonna throw out there. Go ahead and take that to Beard. What do you got?
Personally, I have a panache for hammer-fired pistols. They have a special place in my heart.
Thanks, Die Hard.
Hammer-fired pistols or nil, in my eyes. Not really. I love striker-fired pistols. I just like external hammer-fire that much more. I got to go with CZ75 on that. Full metal frame, full metal slide. Just a joy to shoot. Shoots very well. And doesn't have a whole lot of issues. Has a decocker. There's not much else you can ask for.
Metal guns are nice because they feel like guns. Some of them plastic guns, the polymers, they're great. They're fine. You pick them up, you're like, this feels like a toy.
Well, Uncle Bugatti, it's funny that you said thanks Die Hard, because that was one of the guns that turned me on to the HK P7, which was one of the first production striker-fired pistols, not hammer-fired.
I actually meant to say Lethal Weapon because I was thinking of Mel Gibson rolling on the ground shooting a Beretta. Yeah. So that's where that came from. I was going to correct myself, but I forgot. So there you go.
Well, and a lot of polymer guns are just overpriced Tupperware. You never heard of a dog chewing up your 1911.
2 World Wars.
Can confirm. Can confirm. Yeah, and there's something that was really nice last week. I was able to take one of our buddies' Italian friends out to shoot because he'd never shot before, and I just brought out a Glock 19, Beard's CZ clone that Sarmalaz makes, and it's an EAA SAR K2P, one of the best guns. I deemed it the best 9mm of 2017 on our YouTube channel just because it's such an inexpensive, awesome gun. And just being able to see the difference between hammer-fired, striker-fired, the different triggers, different feels of the guns. 9mm is king. We've all named 9mm guns so far. 45 ACP had its time, 2 World Wars, we get it. 9mm has the capacity and the horsepower to do what you need it to do.
40 Smith & Wesson you're only getting about 150 foot-pounds of kinetic energy added to the round, and you have less round capability as far as magazine capacity.
If you're going to go 40 Smith, you might as well buy 10 mil and quit fucking around.
Amen, brother.
40, short, and wimpy.
I didn't even...
That's
It took me a second.
That was something that our father's generations grew up with as ultimate tactical, and I think it's just silly. So I guess my modern go-to pistol 9mm is the beloved Taurus PT-809 Hipster gun because it doesn't exist anymore. The Taurus TH9 is the copy of that gun, but that 9mm is pretty great. I have to pick the PT-809 because obviously I am the hipster PBR drinker over here. It's hard to find magazines for those guns. The TH9 is new. You can't find magazines for that gun either, but it's a 17-round capacity, full ambi hammer-fired gun. I think the 24-7 is their striker-fired full ambi gun. But for $250, you get a full ambidextrous gun.
That's incredible. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, $250. Pretty great.
That's a modern sporting rifle or sporting handgun for you. Just having all the capabilities that it does, but apparently you can't find them anymore. So when
TH9 is the new one. We haven't tested it yet.
When did they stop the production of the other one?
PT-809 stopped production in late 2016.
There you go, folks. We're going to go eat some food. Right back. Goodbye.
Butt stuff.
Okay, so we just finished pork chops, and we're gonna go ahead and we finished modern pistol. Because you did the CZ
SP 75
Taurus 809. Okay, so now we're on just modern rifle. Mm-hmm. Okay,
You don't even need a specific model, I'll say,
I mean,
unless knowledge base. Do you request a specific model?
Meh.
so
You heard it here, folks. Meh.
I think if Uncle Bugatti's going to start, I might take everyone else's favorite. I'm just going to go ahead and say Eugene Stoner is the man. The Stoner 76 or the Stoner 63. No, I'm kidding. 63. Yeah, sorry, I meant the 63.
Neat gun.
It is. It's a neat concept.
You can flip the gun over and it works. You can flip it over, put the magazine on top, and use it like a Bren.
If only they could have done on the sides, and it would feed like one at a time, rotary style. No, 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, like a cross shape, and it would feed bottom, left, top, right, and it like.
Stop! I can only get so erect.
You guys tired of the convenience of normal guns? 4 magazines, 4 times the firepower, 4 times the weight. Anywho,
4 times the fun.
4 times the fun indeed.
4 times the death.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out the AR-15. I mean, it is M16 a variant? Probably. What an incredible weapon!
Are you ready for this?
Yep.
M16, M16A1, M16A2, M16A3, M4, M4A1, M4A2, the 3-round burst model, my personal favorite. And then you've got the AR-15 SP01. You got the AR-15. You've got all the different variations, including the personal favorite of the internet right now, the Thunder Buddy.
The Thunder Buddy.
That is from Seeking's Precision. It's a grossly overpriced gun, but it has the teddy bear from Ted on it.
So if you throw in a movie reference, you can sell it for $1,500 online.
Precisely. Also, with the AR-15 and its many calibers, which caliber do you choose and why?
Because we're all going to pick a caliber. Man, I don't know. I mean, as far as availability goes...
Caliber and grain weight.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to take a 1-in-7 twist. Maybe some 69 grain. 69
grain!
Well, aside from the obvious, that it's awesome, but, I mean, you know, you're limited. You got, what, 600 yards out of the thing? You might as well fucking drive some tax, okay? A. B, now, going out and buying commercially available 69 grain, I mean, I might be able to find some 5.56 and 62 grain, because that's 77. Ooh, they have 77? Mm-hmm. Well. 55, 62, 77. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and say the 69 grain. That's what I like shooting the most out of my current AR-15. And honestly, it's just a good platform overall. I'm going to let, I'm not going to butcher this. I'm going to let MPK go into the details of specifically why, but I think Eugene Stoner knew what he was doing. Came up with some pretty interesting concepts, and I know a lot of people like to complain that the AR-15 shits where it eats, but carbon's a natural lubricant, so yeah. And if you really want to make MPK angry, just tell him that AR-15s love to run wet. Murder me! So I'm going to throw that one out there. I'm going to pass this off to Beard now.
So I go back and forth. I personally quite enjoy a good direct impinged AR-15, but there's a special, ever so special place in my heart for short stroke gas piston ARs. Because goddamn are they good. As actually, Uncle Bugatti and I had this talk on the way to
Somewhere in
where we were
Idaho.
eating. Somewhere in Idaho.
Suck it up. Suck it up. Yeah, go ahead.
We had this talk on the way to go to get lunch today about how the short stroke gas piston has a much more reliable recoil impulse and much more consistent. Every time is exactly the same, whether you underload or overload. Same every time. Because it's just all the gas, all the gas, all the gas, all the gas. Versus direct impinge doesn't run all loads, as we have found on the channel. But short stroke gas piston chooches right through. It didn't give a fuck.
Well, you still have to pick a grain weight.
You know. Well, I mean, if I'm picking grain weight for bullets, I'm going 300 Win Mag.
I was gonna say you should divert and talk a little bit about the 300 Win Mag.
Because that is by far one of my favorite guns. Another Howa product on the channel. Howa 1500 Game King package in 300 Win Mag. Personally, I like a good, we do what, 178?
It's 178, 180.
Mm-hmm. 178, 180 grain, boat tail hollow points, or just boat tail Spitzer. And then we do, how many grains? It's been forever since I've looked at the logbook.
The max load was 200 something. It's like 220, 200
220 grain.
grain. For the powder, like
Yeah, powder.
79.
So about 79 grains of good old cylindrical powder because nothing is as good.
Big cylindrical powder.
It's beautiful. We usually use
Big
bench
balls.
mark or target. No.
Rotumbo.
Oh, Ratumbo.
Rotumbo.
It's been a while. Sorry, folks.
Mm.
So we can usually get those chooching out of there at close to 3,000 feet per second consistently. Since we do precision hand loads, typically standard deviation of 15 feet per second.
Really? That's awesome.
If we sold this ammo on the interwebs, we could probably sell it for $3 a shot because
That's
it'd be
fair.
fire formed to the chamber and standard deviation of 15 feet per second. That's unheard of.
Do you have a flash hole uniformer and all that crazy shit too? Yeah, I didn't think
No point.
I don't know. I hear some like okay things about doing that, but to me, I don't really think of it. I mean, I clean the primer pocket out, obviously, but because you just try and keep things consistent. Best thing you can do.
Yeah, see, we have this nice case prep tool from Frankfurt Arsenal. Really, really helps with that.
Yeah, if I could describe it, it looks like a smoke machine that they put a couple reamers on.
So it's got a reamer. It's got 3 reamers and a chamfer tool, or inside reamer, outside reamer, chamfer tool, and a case trim.
Yeah, I'm actually really jealous.
It's
Very
pretty nice.
jealous.
Costs $150 and has been worth every cent, right?
I've processed 3,000 pieces of 223 with that thing.
See, and I just on your recommendation, I bought 1,000 rounds of Wolf Gold in 223, so I could reload it, and it didn't have any military crimp on the primers, so it saved me a step in reloading. And but I still have the monotonous task of, because honestly, you think about it and you're like, that's not that big of a deal. You load 300 rounds with a single stage press, and you tell me how minute differences in packing things can add up to hours. Yep. Absolutely.
I for having reloaded, I think 13,000 rounds of 223 on a single stage press. I stay away from the Federal cartridges and Lake City cartridges because you have to deburr that crimped primer pocket, and it takes forever.
And like, I mean, especially with a hand tool, like you could put something on there and it'd probably make it awesome. But
yep.
That's nice.
Yep,
that is nice. We should do a whole one just on reloading because I think that's its own specific. But so.
I have so much to say.
Yeah, I've learned. I mean, honestly, you can gun hipster it up like old mpk over here.
Yep.
Read everything you want to online and books and shit. But like you pick up and you start reloading, you get a real good feel of what exactly is going on inside of that.
If you're a precision shooter and you don't reload, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and
everything wrong. Yeah,
I think anything that you don't like. I can understand, I have a single stage press. I can understand with the amount that I shoot in 9mm, where if someone was like, I don't want to load that much, that's fair.
Yep.
But anything else, especially rifles, especially milsurp, I think it's just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like like I said, how many times have you beaten open a Mosin bolt trying to get that military surplus ammo? I can load some soft loads for that. Some gallery loads almost.
Yep.
And guess what? It cycles like there's no freaking brass in there.
You get a 120 grain, 30 caliber, 311 diameter for like an AK and put it in that and just put like 35 grains of powder. So you got like 2,000 feet per second. And you're just like, oh, wow, this is a fun day at the range.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, privy.
Doesn't suck quite so bad with that metal butt plate.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yep. But like, I picked up some Privy Partisan brass, which is awesome. PPU brass is awesome.
PPU brass is the bomb.com.
Got 50 rounds of that, and I have not even shot all of those once. Now, if I went out and I'm having the problem I was telling him, the Mosin Nagant was actually sighted in per military orders of the Soviet Union with the bayonet. What I've heard people do is they've been taking shrink wrap for wiring, and they'll put it onto the front post to take the point of impact down. I'm going to give that a try. And then if that happens, because I remember I was shooting it. I loaded some 150 grain soft points for deer hunting because you can rifle hunt in Idaho. And so I was like, why not? But I went out to shoot it after I loaded it. And I put up at 100 yards. Like, I'm not an incredible shot, especially with the Mosin triggers.
That is a learning curve in and of itself.
Oh, yeah. And you can do some work to it. Not the greatest shot. I mean, I grew up on iron sights, but I pulled that target out and didn't hit it. I was like, I thought that was a little bit better than that. It's about, 12-inch target all the way around. Didn't hit it. Didn't even hit the paper.
Yep.
So I put it up at 50 yards, and I was hitting
way high left.
7, not too high, not too left, high, just straight high. High, probably 7 or 8 inches.
Usually the bayonet sits on the right side of the gun, right? Ours hit way high left because it pushes the bullet left from that, basically that surface area of the bayonet pushes it left. I think ours was hitting 7, 8 inches high left, and I took the bayonet off and it hit high, but not very high.
Yeah. So, and you can adjust the left to right traverse. Maybe not the term I want to use for the front post.
The windage.
No, I thought the windage would be more of like on the rear sight.
It's all windage.
It's all windage.
Yeah. We've gotten way off of modern rifles talking about nuggets.
No, I'm just saying, like, to me, that's like, to windage would be like something that you would adapt for in the moment, not like, oh, we're sighting the rifle in.
Yeah, no, that's windage. Windage is windage.
Well, left to right, and I can adjust that. Put some shrink wrap on there. I'm gonna see if I can't lower that point of impact. But anyway, MPK. You want to go ahead and give me your modern rifle?
My modern sporting rifle.
No, just modern rifle.
Modern sporting rifle. Okay.
I mean, if you want to add adjectives, go for it.
Yeah.
But
my modern sporting assault baby killing rifle.
I bought some baby-seeking bullets from Hornady, and they work.
They call them the B-Max. Oh God.
Ooh, baby.
I've always wanted to develop a 7mm intermediate cartridge for the AR-15 because of the ballistic capabilities of the 7mm. I think that would be amazing. I want to build a 6.5 AR-15. I mean, if you pick any modern gun other than an AR-15, you're just a chav. Like there's no gun that even competes with it.
I want a Scar Light.
Oh God. You want the UGG boot gun
It's like, hey, do you have an AR-15 that's way heavier?
and way less reliable.
Way less reliable. It's still recording. She's just, the cat is on the computer.
Get it off of there.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't use computers. We use space-age technology
In Idaho.
in Idaho. Old senior buff over here.
But if I had to pick, it'd be AR-15, 62 grain, or M193 ball, just because there's so much of it out there. 1 in 8 twist, so that you can shoot all sorts of different loads. And I personally like a lightweight carbine setup. I just like a gun with either a 3-9 by 40 and a lightweight mount. It's a good old coyote gun, or a lightweight gun with just a red dot on it. I don't like hanging crap off of my AR-15. I think it's silly.
I still want to shoot a coyote with 300 Win Mag.
Jib. But yeah, it's the AR-15 is America's rifle. There's no getting around. I've never seen a gun that got even close to competing with it. AK fanboys are just wrong. I mean, the AK doesn't even come close to the simplicity, the availability, and just it's so freaking reliable. You will not break an AR-15 unless it's a manufacturing issue.
Or running wet.
Stop it. That's just
Bunch of slack-jawed faggots.
But yeah, it's just, even if you go with an AR-10, we just got one we're going to review on the mpk.1414 YouTube channel. I can imagine it's probably going to be just as fun, just more recoil, a little more costly. But yeah, the AR-15, you can't compete with that at all.
I like to point out, it was pointed out to me earlier, but today's date is actually 2/23. So whoopie-doo.
It's a good way to start a podcast, is start on 223.
It is a good way to start a podcast.
We didn't even plan on starting it on 223. We're just like, we can all get together this weekend. Let's do it.
I can't wait till 5:56.
Thanks, AOC.
The 3 chambers of government are... Oh, man.
Wait a minute.
3 chambers of government. There's...
The legislative, the presidential, and the executive.
No, she said the judicial, the Senate, and the House.
Oh, she probably said that. Which, 1, not chambers. 2, no.
Yeah, it's. I mean, branches.
Chambers are parliament.
Yeah, that's a very British thing.
bunch of losers. 1776, baby.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, there's no competing with the AR-15 at all. I've always pondered the idea of replacing it. I have no idea how you would do it other than energy weapons like a Gauss gun. Like there's
Gauss gun, rail gun.
yeah, it's something that's literally zero recoil, shoots a laser beam with no ballistics needed. You just point and shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're all excited for Starship Troopers to come to real life.
You know what that gun was? The Starship Troopers? That was an M14 put in a bullpup chassis that they could shoot full auto.
My dick is very hard.
It was so neat.
Have you ever been inside of an indoor range with someone shooting an M14 full auto?
No.
Yeah, it's like, I imagine what having a stroke feels like.
Or a minigun indoors.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine that.
That's crazy.
I don't even know why they call it a minigun.
M134 GE. Don't know how they... You know what the M249 SAW was in the FN name? It was the Mini-Me. Why? Why are you calling it the Mini-Me?
I love the history behind manufacturers' proprietary gun names, because sometimes you're like, that's fucking stupid. And sometimes you're like, I don't know what I expected.
I'm so ridiculously German. I love HKs. First number, type of weapon. Is it a shoulder-fired select fire? Is it a shoulder-fired semi-auto civilian gun? Shoulder-fired belt fed, and then the second one's the caliber. Like I think 2 or 3 is 7.62 by 39. 2 or 1 is 7.62 by 51 because it's NATO, and then the first one was 8mm because HK, you know. And then their 5.56 is like the 6, and it's numbers. It's just real simple.
Yeah, like number of rifle.
Or like Armalite AR-15, Armalite's model of the 15th generation.
Oh yeah, and
That makes a lot of sense to me.
The
Indeed.
it's like the 30-06. It's like we needed something to replace the 30-40 Krag. It's like, well, it's 30 cal, so we'll start with that.
What year is it?
Yeah, well, the first one,
06.
the 03 didn't work as well as we thought, so we're gonna go with the 06 variant, 30-06. Put it on the box. I think that kind of concludes our weapon of choices, obviously. We haven't gotten into any clubs, maces, or any other weapons. I'm a big fan of rocket launchers. Never shot one. If you want to contact me, I'll put some information up. You can go ahead and I will shoot your rocket launcher. No quarrels. You know, not at people, obviously, but
Doesn't have to be high explosive, just dummy rounds.
yeah,
Dummy rounds are
just
fine.
dummy rounds are fine. You know, I'll meet you anywhere. I got a lot of airline miles and hotel points saved up, and you know, maybe toss a hand grenade or two. You know, let me know.
Frag out.
Yeah, so suck it up, keep it groovy, but don't keep it too groovy, you fucking hippies.